Gran Turismo 7 is making a lot of people angry and has opened up a huge can of worms. LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is almost here, and I got a good look at the gameplay. And I've got my review of Tango Gameworks' Ghostwire Tokyo. All that and the latest and everything cool today in the Rundown. Hey, welcome to the Rundown. My name is Victor Lucas, and I'm thrilled to see you here in the Electric Playground. We've got an awesome episode for you today, and it's brought to you by our friends at the Gaming Stadium. They are Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation, and they've got tournaments happening every single weekend that you don't want to miss out on. You can find out all about them at tgs.gg. I also want to tell you guys about a new initiative that they've got going on. It's called Pepper, and Pepper is all about giving the power of tournaments back to gamers out there, to put some bragging rights on the line, to put some cash on the line if they want to. It's free to use, and it's a very cool platform that you can find out about at pepper.gg. Now, we have a dedication for today's episode, and I wasn't expecting this one. It came out of the blue, but our friend Brandon Jones over at Game Trailers announced that he is retiring from the video game business today. And I've known Brandon for many years. Obviously, we connected at events on the road, talking about video games all over the place. But he tweeted out that friends, colleagues, allies, I'm retiring. May 1st will be my last day at Easy Allies and in games. He's decided to go and be a stay-at-home dad, which I think is absolutely amazing, and I was so happy for him when they became parents. He and his wife became parents, so I'm thrilled for him. It's weird for me to see colleagues deciding to kind of step aside and peers deciding that they want to move on and do something else, but I get it, man. Life is filled with opportunity and all kinds of zigs and zags, and sometimes you just have to make big changes like that. So mad respect to you, Brandon Jones. You're a great guy. We've had you on Electric Playground several times over the years. Had a nice big Vic's Basement with him, I think, last year that you can listen to on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/EPNTV. It's also in audio form on the podcast services everywhere. But he's a wonderful dude, and I wish you all the very best, Brandon Jones. All right, you guys, let's get started with the rundown, and we're going to talk about Gran Turismo 7 and its troubles. So Gran Turismo 7 has been in the news for all kinds of the wrong reasons over the last little while. Here's Kazunori Yamauchi. He is the figurehead, the leader of the Gran Turismo brand, and has been for many, many years. I have reviewed Gran Turismo 7, and full disclosure, I loved it. And I didn't know if I loved it all the way through playing it because there was already a tremendous amount of grinding in the game, but I got obsessed with collecting things and getting new challenges and going to the cafe and earning the new cars. And I think that's what is at the core of the design with the game and what the GT7 developers really wanted to, offer up to all of us as players out there. And I got it and I dug it, but there has been a lot of concern about the way that microtransactions factor into the game because, obviously a huge chunk of the game is earning all kinds of cars and spending the in-game currency, the credits on these vehicles. But there are some incredibly expensive vehicles that will cost you a lot of money the deeper and deeper you go into the game. So, what has been par for the course with Gran Turismo is you start off with the cars that you might see at the grocery market, the drive around town type cars, and you race around in those types of things. And then eventually you'll work up to the supercars and the super fast racing vehicles. And the grind can be quite long until you get there. And the way that they've set it up is that you go into these cafe type scenarios and you get a little history and backstory on these different vehicle brands. And then eventually you got to collect 3 of a kind, and then you'll get access to another layer. And the whole way along, you are earning all kinds of credits that will not only allow you to upgrade your vehicle and purchase new vehicles, but also give you access to new levels. You're also going to be taking a bunch of driving tests. You guys know the deal on how Gran Turismo works, but in addition to the microtransaction issue, there has also been an outage, a very, very well-publicized outage where Gran Turismo 7 was down for about 30 hours. And so Kazunori and his team and people at Sony Interactive Entertainment had to come up with a response to this because people were understandably up in arms about having a game that many people just play in single player. It's about the game and the AI of the cars kind of challenging you, and you are almost RPG-like. I call it a CarPG. I didn't coin the term, but I like it, where you are sort of RPG-like grinding and collecting all of the stuff that you want to. That's pretty hard to do if you've got an always online experience, even in single player. And so they had to create a big basic apology about what has happened here. And one of the things that was in that letter is, we will in time let you know about the update plans for additional content, additional race events, and additional features that will constructively resolve this. It pains me that I can't explain the details regarding this at the moment, but we plan on continuing to revise GT7 so that as many players as possible will enjoy the game. We would really appreciate it if everyone could watch over the growth of Gran Turismo 7 from a somewhat longer term point of view. So I feel like what they're saying is they've made mistakes, they're aware that they've made mistakes, and they've got some response to give back to the community. That community, by the way, is not happy at all, as you can see in the Metacritic scores out there. 87 is sort of the average score. I gave it a 9 out of 10, and I stand by that score based on the content and the visual fidelity and the DualSense 5 feedback that I was getting as I was racing. I was completely enthralled by the game. But the user score is at 2 out of 10, and that is unbelievable, because Gran Turismo is one of the crown jewels in PlayStation's crown, and they've had nothing but massive success with this franchise. There have been a couple of dips and a couple of times where the competitors kind of took pole position for a little while, with Forza especially. But Gran Turismo has been this tried and true franchise for a long time. So Polyphony Digital and Sony are on the back foot a little bit here. They've got to respond, I think, not just today, not just with this new announcement, but with updates and maybe a whole new pricing schematic around the microtransactions. Now, I knew the microtransactions were a part of the experience, but they weren't key or central to the way that I enjoyed the game. And I didn't unlock everything. I didn't have time to unlock every single thing in the game. But I got a great idea of the ways that you can earn money and the compulsion to continue to do so that you can see cooler and cooler things. And I also felt like the feature set with this game was absolutely stellar, like including the scenes motif here, where you can create all of these different or scapes, they call it, where you can create all of these different photographs or sort of moving things that look like moving images with the vehicles that you have in your collection against these beautifully, composed photographic elements. It's really staggering. It's really, in more ways than ever before, a love letter to the racing phenomenon and the vehicle collection phenomenon. And I got it, I totally understood it. I also understand people's frustration. And I think that this is going to be a flag in the ground for the gaming community, just like the Cyberpunk 2077 botched launch was, where people are really going to question, again, why single-player content has to be always online. Now, Polyphony has said that they don't want people cheating and finding a way to rack up lots and lots of credits quickly and then go and compete online and beat all kinds of people with the supercars that they've been able to earn quicker than anybody else. I understand that, but it does feel like you are trying to police how people can access your material, as well as police how quickly they can access their material. And people have paid a lot of money for that entry ticket. This isn't a free-to-play Gran Turismo game. It costs a lot of dough to purchase this title and install it on your PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5. And so Sony's got to do some switches here. They've got to do some changes here to make this thing a little bit more accessible. And it sounds like they know that. And I don't think that this is going to be the last of what we hear about it. And I guess all that we can do, especially as fans, is like I'm doing right here, is just talk about it and let Sony and Polyphony know that you're displeased. I don't think you have to do it in a threatening way or an accusatory way or want to burn down everything because you're angry about it. I understand the anger, but I don't think that really serves anybody, The thing about the video game industry is that it's not so set up and so, set in its ways that it knows all of the ways that it can rip the consumer off. There are a lot of companies that try different things to earn as much money as they possibly can, and if you think about companies, that's kind of what companies are supposed to do for their shareholders. but they also have to acknowledge when they make mistakes. And the video game industry has a long history of that, where companies come out and try something, and it maybe isn't from the ill intent that people suspect that it is. Always. I suspect that sometimes it is, but I feel like the best thing to do is just say, look, this is not cool. I am not a happy customer, and what are you going to do to make some changes here? And I think it also should come from a place of being a happy customer with Gran Turismo for an extended period of time, because I believe that most fans of the franchise are in that place. You know, they feel potentially, I think there's probably a huge contingent out there that don't care either way. They're just playing the game happily, and they're finding different ways to unlock the cars. But I suspect that there are a lot of fans out there that have loved this franchise forever and just want to feel that same adoration and that same sense of joy with this current game. And this is going to be the only Gran Turismo that we get probably in this generation, because it takes these guys a long time to build these things. So I guess this is a long way of saying is that they ain't done with this game, and we should pay attention to what's going on there. I'm probably not going to be done reporting on this for a while, but I want to hear your thoughts. Do you feel like Sony is sort of dipping into this services model, the free-to-play model, a little too egregiously here? Did they overstep? Are there ways that they can course correct? And what do you think about Gran Turismo in general and Gran Turismo 7? Are you happy with the game? Let me know in the comments below. And let's move on to a game that is almost here from a galaxy far, far away. I'm talking about Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. Now, earlier, or actually it was last week, because I don't know what day it is because I'm working all the time. But last week, I got a nice big preview look at Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. Now, this was the most in-depth look at the game that I've had since this thing has been announced, and they've released a couple of cool video sequences sort of showing off the breadth and the scope of it. But we got some really interesting playthrough visuals with this title, and it looks better and better every time that I see it. Now, it's coming out in early April, so we don't have a long time to wait, but this is a game that is really kind of pushing into that in-between zone from the cutesy Lego Star Wars experiences that we've seen in the past, which is sort of exemplified by the look and feel. One thing that you'll notice is that everything inside of the ship is created by Lego, and they've done a really nice job sort of giving you the impression that you too, if you had limitless amounts of time, could build this exact set in your house right now. But they've also positioned the camera right behind Leia as she's shooting down the corridor, and that's a huge new change for Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. They want to, I think, give players a lot more agency over the characters that they're controlling and make it feel a lot more akin to the sort of state-of-the-art in third-person action-adventure titles out there. Now, obviously, this is a game that delivers big on different types of Star Wars stories. You get all 9 of the core movies. I've talked a little bit about the DLC. They're going to have some downloadable content from Solo and Rogue One and The Mandalorian, of course. But you're going to be playing through key sequences, almost every sequence of all of these movies, and you're going to be playing as almost all of the characters that you could imagine. Anybody that you potentially have picked up an action figure for or a Star Wars mini figure for, you're going to be able to control that character. And every character's got their own abilities. R2-D2 has hacking abilities and all kinds of interesting new elements to the gameplay. There's also a huge emphasis on cooperative play, so you'll be joined by other characters. No matter which character you're in control of, there'll be somebody beside you, and you'll be switching between the characters or playing cooperatively and solving the puzzles. And, some of this stuff looks like things that we have played before, but I think there is a much bigger emphasis on making it feel more action-packed and tactile, like the best third-person stuff that we have played. And that's what I got. I got a good sense of, the scope and the scale and the ambition for this title. I think that this is a game that's been delayed for many times for a good reason. They've been working their butts off to try to make something that sort of repositions TT games in a different way, sort of sets the bar for how their games are going to be going forward. They wanted this to be like the new generation of what the Lego experiences are going to be. And I think that might be because Lego itself as a corporation is starting to partner with other companies and take some risks in other directions. And I think TT is starting to think we need to be the prestige developer with these types of titles. And so, you're still going to see the wacky sense of humor. There's an ability also for you to have the gibberish talking that these characters have had in previous Lego experiences, but there's also dialogue that's lifted right from the films and stuff as well. I think we're looking a little bit at Revenge of the Sith right here, which is kind of cool. And then there's a big boss fight that happens here where they go against Doku, and we get a little they give us a sense that this is not just the typical bash 3 things and then the level is over. Like, the boss fight has some consequence, and it looks pretty freaking amazing, and loving the reflections and the light sourcing and all of the details in there. And the force powers that the Jedi are going to have and the Sith are going to have. The one thing that they also wanted to highlight, too, with this game is that there's going to be a lot of different Star Wars vehicles that we're going to be able to control. They showed off a little bit of The Force Awakens and gave us Poe Dameron in his X-Wing fighter, taking on the big Star Destroyer at the beginning of that film, which is kind of... Or this is actually The Last Jedi, the Last Jedi sequence where they bomb the Jedi, or they bombed the big the Star Destroyer thing that they've got to take care of right here, which is kind of cool. But there are lots and lots of other vehicles that you're going to be able to hop into. And then the other thing with this game, too, is that you can go to any star system that's been seen in the Star Wars lore as well. So it's not all just like this guided thing. There's a lot of freeform and a lot of movement. You can see all of these different types of characters from every era. You can play as a Rancor if you want, which is kind of crazy. It looks like a hell of a lot of fun. And I think it's also going to be one of those games where, if you've got kids that have grown up with the Lego Star Wars games or Lego games in general, and they're a little bit older, they're still going to find a lot of enjoyment with this. I don't think if you're an adult player, you're going to feel like everything has been too dumbed down and kiddified, and maybe not as opaque either. I haven't played the game, I haven't got real hands-on time with it, but I feel like one of the things with the Lego games in the past is sometimes you would have objectives that you weren't really clear on, and part of it was the way that the camera was set up and the way that they were doling out the objectives. I think it's all going to be a lot clearer. You're also going to be able to control Slave 1. I'm calling it Slave 1, so take that, Disney. I still call it Slave 1. And you're going to be in control of all of the Star Wars ships and locations, and I can't wait to see Hoth in action and all of this stuff. Now, we've done it before, but I don't think we've done it at this pedigree with this amount of love and this amount of detail. And it really kind of made me realize that we have never got a Star Wars game that's in 3D that lets us play the movies. Like we've had the Super Star Wars experiences and these, bite-sized 2D experiences on handhelds and stuff like that. But to play the game in 3D, to play these worlds in 3D, I guess we got some of the original prequel trilogy games were close approximations to what we were seeing in the films, and they were okay. And some of them are actually quite fun. I remember I think the Episode 3 game, the Revenge of the Sith, was actually a fun brawler with playing as Anakin and Obi-Wan. But I think this is pretty damn wonderful that we're getting this full 3D escape into all of these stories that we know. And Lego has always done that, but I think this is going to be another level. But it really makes me question why the hell, Disney and Lucasfilm and its partners haven't just given us a close to photoreal Star Wars in 3D experience. I think it would be awesome. Play those movies. Play as all of those characters. I still want that. Even after Lego Star Wars, I'm sure I'll still want that. But that's coming out in April, and of course, I'll be reviewing it, and I'll be streaming it right here. I hope you guys are excited for it, and if you're not, I apologize for talking so much about it, because I am excited about Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. All right, I want to move on now and talk a little bit about Ghostwire Tokyo. I've got my review for you right here. I've been spending a lot of time in Shibuya thanks to Ghostwire Tokyo, which is developed by Tango Gameworks, headed up by Shinji Mikami. So you dropped some of those names there, and you have some pretty high expectations for a very fun and spooky and creepy video game. And I think that that exists in Ghostwire Tokyo, but I also think that this is a game that maybe has suffered some in development through the pandemic and through some personnel changes, some high-profile personnel changes that have happened behind the scenes, because something has gone wrong with Ghostwire Tokyo. And I'm not just talking about the story, which is about Tokyo being infestated with all kinds of creepy ghosts and yokai and demons, and basically killing the population or hundreds of thousands of the different people that exist in this beautiful urban environment. They've been wiped off the face of the earth by this killer fog, and you, as Akito, partnered up with this spectral ally named KK, have to go and save the souls that are still floating around inside of this beautiful modern setting. And also battle the creatures and the creeps that are cruising around on the city streets. And that all sounds like fantastic fodder for a game. And I gotta tell you, it really is for about 5 hours. And then Ghostwire Tokyo kind of has said to you, look, there it is, there's our game. That's it, that's the game. Just keep doing that for another 10 hours or so. Just do the same thing over and over again. Now, you can do cool things, like you can run up to dogs and you can read their thoughts and you can pet them. And if you're nice to a dog will be nice to you and maybe give you some currency that you can use in all of these cool stores that are run by cats. I love that. Like there's this quirky charm and this quirky out-of-placeness in a lot of different ways. It's esoteric, and it feels like a trip. It's trippy, but it also feels like you're actually walking the city streets in Tokyo, which I really enjoyed. But you end up doing a lot of the same activities over and over again. You go into temples and you collect these kind of prayer beads that give you some powers up, and you are constantly exploring some interiors and seeing all kinds of spooky little elements inside there. And you're also picking up this spectral ether that will give you the powers that are, kind of Bioshockian in the way that they are crafted and put together. And there's all kinds of twisted distortion and corruption that's happening and going on around you, and you are constantly questioning what is reality as you're playing the game. And I enjoyed those elements. And honestly, like, if this was a shorter experience, if this was not a game that sort of presented that it was going to be a huge full-size AAA experience and had come in at a lower price, and we could set our expectations on what this game was going to be, I think it would have served the title a lot better. This is really a game that you see the whole thing in 5 or 6 hours. You do some side missions, like in this particular one, I'm trying to sneak up on a little demon and capture him, and then I can free a spirit, and then I get another part of the currency that unlocks some new special powers in there. And there's lots of collectathon type of side missions and stuff, or you have to go and find a kid for a parent. Stuff that you would normally think about in an open world experience like this. And it is cool that it's an open world, and there's some verticality in the game as well, so you can climb up on top of buildings, and you can go into subways, and you can fight with all kinds of interesting looking beasts and creatures, like this super tall lady with these scissors here. And a lot of it is based on Japanese folklore, and there's a real sense of belonging and a commitment to crafting some interesting iconography and an interesting tone and setting, all of which I applaud. I also really did like the visuals. I think the hands of Akito look incredible, and all of the different flourishes and magical attacks that the character has are pretty damn cool. They're not super effective though. You have these elemental attacks. So you have water attacks, you have wind attacks, and you have fire attacks, and of course the fire attacks are the most helpful. You also get these different stun attacks and these other different abilities by collecting those, and there's also a spectral bow and arrow that you can pull out as well. And so there is a little bit of strategy, employing the tools that you have as you get into each of the battles, but the battles keep happening over and over again. And there is an interesting assortment of enemies. Some of them will look like faceless business people, and sometimes you'll be fighting, headless schoolgirls or giant monster beast creatures, and some of the bosses actually morph into some pretty spooky and scary looking creatures. But you're going to see a lot of repetition and a lot of the same types, and again, it's one of those types of games where you kind of see everything that the game has to offer relatively early, and then it's rinse and repeat. And the one thing about the beauty of this section of Tokyo that we get to travel around in is that a lot of the neighborhoods look very similar, and so there's a lot of repeated textures and details and signage. And of course, you have to consider the budget and all of this, but I feel like during the design phase of the game, there just wasn't enough built in to incentivize and to keep the player engaged all the way through. And so, I mentally was starting to check out at about, hour 7 or 8. And then there were some interesting peaks and stuff that would come in when I'd fight a boss or a cool looking cut sequence that would take me into the story again a little bit. And I really enjoyed the ending of the game. I thought that was it was really cool. Obviously, I'm not showing any of this stuff. I'm trying not to spoil too much. But that's the thing with this game, is that it doesn't really matter kind of what you show of the game, because it all kind of looks the same, which is cool. There's just, I think, just too much of it and not enough of it at the same time, which is really weird. So I had a good time playing Ghostwire Tokyo, and I was happy to finish the game, and I was a bit moved by the ending, and I don't know if I got the official ending or if there's other endings that you can pick up. And one of the things that happens when you beat the game is you can go back to your save and take the last section again if you want to, and you can also collect a bunch of stuff and start the game over if you want to. But I feel like I got the routine, and I saw what the game has to offer. I liked, destroying the trees, these corrupted trees. I like going into the netherworld and battling the beasts apart from the Tokyo streets that we get to go on here. I liked flying, but I felt like there wasn't enough of it. And, there's other things that you find and you collect along the way that are interesting, but they're not really used in the gameplay. There were a couple of times where the game actually defaults to just showing an awesome cut sequence, and I would think to myself, why the hell am I not playing that awesome cut sequence? And, I get it. There's budget limitations, and they've got to tell a story, and they've got to kind of, hone in on the mechanics and figure out exactly what you can do. I mean, here's a perfect example that Hanya is the major demon creature, the major villain in the game, and he's really cool, and he's a great adversary to Akito and KK, who are incredibly powerful, but he's so underutilized in the game, like a lot of villains in video games. We see him, and then he's interspersed, and he's on video screens, and he's this threatening, oppressive force, but we don't get to interact with that character enough in the game, and they spend so much time building something so frightening and so cool. But yeah, I mean, I think the elements for a very cool game are in this game. I just think that it overstays its welcome with the mechanics and the ramp up in diversity. It should have been shorter, and we should have cut to the chase a little bit sooner, I think. I mean, I think that this would have been an amazing indie experience, obviously, but I don't know, somehow I think the idea just got stretched like taffy, and it just went on too long for the rewards that you get as a player. And it kind of interrupts this sort of this fantastic rhythm that we've been on over the last 6 weeks or so, where it's just been great game after great game after great game. This is not a great game. It's not a bad game. It's just an okay game. I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. All right, I've got a couple quick things to tell you about. Haven has been acquired by PlayStation. This is the studio that my friend Jade Raymond is spearheading. She opened it up last year. It's been actually a year and a month, I think, since the studio announced that it was out there and first opened its doors. It's been growing out of Montreal, Quebec, in Canada, and Jade has obviously got a tremendous resume and lots of experience in the video game industry. She's now founded 3 different studios. She started Motive and Ubisoft Toronto, and now Haven, which is part of the PlayStation empire, which is really freaking cool, and I'm so proud of her. I don't know what they're working on, but PlayStation has been saying that they are working on a AAA multiplayer experience, so we will find out what they're about. Jade wrote a letter basically talking about all of the reasons why they are making this change. But one of the things that I really enjoyed was this quote: "As an SIE first-party studio, we will have the opportunity to collaborate with some of the world's most renowned development teams, including studios like Guerrilla, Naughty Dog, Media Molecule, and Insomniac Games, the creators of games that have inspired us as players and developers for years. We're excited to learn from these world-class studios, as well as the exceptional central creative technology and marketing teams whose expertise will enable us to deliver even better games to players." And I have to admit, that's incredibly exciting. I know that we talk a lot about what Xbox is up to with the Game Pass and all of the purchases of the huge companies like Activision Blizzard and Bethesda, but Sony has so many arrows in its quiver. You know, so much world-class talent works with Sony and on PlayStation products right now, and it's an interesting strategy, because definitely it feels like Microsoft is sort of opening up its titles and its ability to access those titles to a lot of different platforms. You know, you can get xCloud and Game Pass titles on Steam Deck now. And we hear about that kind of news all the time, but PlayStation is a lot more closed, but it has a lot of incredible talent to kind of wrap its arms around. So I'm excited to see where all that goes. Of course, Jade was tweeting about that today too. She's incredibly excited. She says it's a dream come true. So I don't know what they're working on. And it's, you know, I've known Jade for years. She used to be on Electric Playground, for those that don't know. And we connect every once in a while, but it's, you know, it's a little bit different, right? She's the head of a studio, so she can't reveal any secret stuff, and she's got to keep her cards close to her vest. But I can't wait to have her on the show, and I can't wait to go and visit Haven in Montreal. That will be super fun. I can't wait to find out what they're working on. But congrats to my buddy Jade. I think that's amazing, and you know, good luck on the game, and good luck with this new relationship with PlayStation. Something else that was announced today is The Witcher is moving on to The Witcher 4, conceivably. CD Projekt Red made the announcement that they are working on a brand new iteration of the Witcher franchise, and something that is quite interesting about this, unlike the Red engine that they've been building all of their games on, with Witcher and Cyberpunk and all that stuff, and to great effect, by the way. These are beautiful games that we're talking about. We're looking at Witcher 3 footage here from years ago, but it's still an incredible looking game. It's absolutely beautiful. And if you've never played The Witcher 3, Witcher 1 and 2 are excellent too, but this is just like another level of action role-playing. It's just so freaking good. But they've decided to move off of their own proprietary engine and start working with Unreal Engine 5. And here's a little bit of the PlayStation 5 UE5 footage that they showed a couple of years ago, kind of hinting at where UE5 is going to take games. You know, the level of detail and the specular lighting and the mist that you see and the dust kicking off of everything. I mean, it's just an incredible demo to kind of show off the power of this engine. So it makes sense, but it's also, you always think about the homogenization in video games when everybody's using the same types of engine. I mean, on a business level, it makes a tremendous amount of sense to take off-the-shelf technology and not have to employ a whole bunch of really talented, creative people to kind of conceive of everything. But then you worry that everything is going to have a similar kind of look or a similar kind of feel. And it's really up to these teams to take these tools and make it and customize it and make it their own. So let's hope that that's exactly what's going to happen with The Witcher 4. But, you know, I think what we're looking at with the future of games, this is more of the UE5 demo right here, is we're going to edge closer and closer to photoreal. And real looks real, you know? So whether it's this engine or some of the other competitive engines out there, I think that's what we're all kind of chasing. Photo real with a fantastical shine on it. Very excited to see where we go with the next iteration of The Witcher. And finally, I've got one last thing to tell you guys about, and it's Virtua Fighter 5, believe it or not, is in the news right now. They just announced over the weekend that they have partnered up with Bandai Namco on some Tekken costumes and a Tekken look for Virtua Fighter 5. Now, there's a big, esports kind of play around Virtua Fighter out there, and I guess this sort of keeps the game percolating for the fan base that exists around the world. I love Virtual Fighters and Tekken as well, so I think this is pretty damn cool. It would be amazing to see a full-on Tekken versus Virtual Fighter experience. Easier said than done. We all know how the Street Fighter versus Tekken stuff didn't really pan out, but I think it's pretty damn cool that you're going to be able to wear some colors and some costumes from the Tekken universe in Virtual Fighter. And Virtual Fighter 5 is out there for different consoles. I know it's on PlayStation 5. I think it was free for a little while on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, but that's some pretty cool news. And that's going to do it for the Rundown today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Everybody that's watching the Rundown live, do know that we carry on and we do some live streaming. Today we're going to be streaming Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you soon, and until then, play forever.